Well then, here we are, and the R34 has escalated slightly. We had a few dramas with it on the dyno, and we concluded that it has an engine drama. We can't quite work out what that engine drama is. We half disassembled the engine, but without crack testing it and all that sort of stuff, who knows. So here we have an RB30 bottom end. You might be asking, why on earth would you bother with a bare RB30 bottom end? We're now less than a week away from Powercruise. Well, the answer to that is we didn't. It was a complete bottom end. In fact, it was a complete engine a couple of days ago, of which we were going to use the bottom end. And then stupid us decided to take one piston out because there was a tiny imperfection in one bore we were going to clean up. And then we discovered all the bearings were stuffed, so we took everything out. We took the crank out, and lo and behold, everything's buggered. So we're now doing a backyard engine rebuild. It's going to be an RB25 30. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. We have no idea what we're doing.
So we decided, well, you know what, let's put an RB30 bottom end under the 25 head. So we went and got one of the RB30s that we had lying around. We disassembled it, took the head off of it, cleaned it up a little bit, and then we have our bottom end. Because curiosity got the better of us, we decided to disassemble the motor in the respect of taking a piston out, checking the bearings, etc., bores, make sure everything's okay before we go and slam 25-pounder boost into it. And unfortunately, what we found was not overly promising. The bearings were extremely corroded, pitted, heat damaged, and it was very obvious that we were no longer just going to be slapping a bottom end under this car. We were going to be at least up for a set of bearings.
We'll make comments about
Our method. Oh, somebody rub the block really good.
Yeah, rub the block and make it nice and smooth, like my baby's bum. You gotta put tension on the spring.
My
name's Damien.
Shut up. It's all visible, I think.
Spin it. Wouldn't have been the downside to this engine anyway. The fact that half of the copper was missing out of our bearings probably would have been in favour.
So what we discovered after we honed the bores, we decided to do a little bit of measuring, and we found that the bores were 0.5 mil oversized, and all the bearings were 20 thou over. So we basically just decided to run with those clearances and get the corresponding parts to suit.
Alright, this is our lovely RB30 crankshaft. Just due to how many Ks were on the engine and it's had a previous rebuild, we thought we would try and give it a little bit of love and balance the crankshaft. So what we're going to do is show you a really, really cool trick for everyone at home, how you can balance your crankshaft yourself. I only found this out the other day, and I'm really excited to give it a go. So, what you do, essentially, is you grab your crank, and in a second I'm going to get my lovely assistant to spin the crank, and I'm just going to quite clearly feel where the heavy parts of the crankshaft are. What we're going to do is we're going to mark it, and then we're just going to come in with a grinder. We're just going to take a little bit off that side of the crank. And if we do this consistently across the entire crankshaft, we should get a nice balanced crank, pop it in the engine, and it'll be miles better. Alright, so we've marked the crank. We know where we need to take a bit of material off. I'm just going to quickly hit it with the trusty Milwaukee, and we should be good to go.
Hey Damien, did you say you're cranking along quite nicely?
Ready? This is how all engines should be. Hello and welcome back to the world's most successful RB30 engine rebuild. What we're doing here is we're checking piston ring gap. We weren't going to, we were just going to slap the pistons in, Turns out it's kind of lucky that we checked the gap. You probably can't see, but we've got a ring here in piston number 1 bore, and this is a feeler gauge. Now this particular feeler, for lack of a better term, that I have out of the gauge is 25 thou, or 0.63 millimeters, which, as you guys would already know, is an enormous ring gap. If we just insert that into there and you come and have a bit of a look, so it's now in the ring end gap, and just hold there. It is like a sausage down a hallway. We have 50 thou ring gap. I didn't think that was possible. But look, we would never have butted the ring ends together. It's the next morning, and we haven't really slept. After our ring gap scenario, we did lots of thinking and procrastinating, which we are professionals at, and we decided that we were going to do the stupid move of leave at 6:30 this morning, head straight for Rocket Industries in Sydney, buy some, turns out to be JE Pro Seal piston rings, and come back amongst other things that we got while we were there. So now we're gapping our new rings, which will probably be slightly less than 50 thou. This here, my friends, is the sound of victory. Okay, maybe just a little bit more. And just a fraction more. You ready? Now we get to go for a second time. Having a 2-pass sweep of your rod bolts essentially just allows you the magnificent experience of victory twice. Short block, done!
So, in the hiatus of footage that we've managed to lose, we basically went from a short block to a long block. So we had a factory Nissan head gasket, some ARP head studs. We put all of that jazz together, grub screwed the head as you need to do when you're doing a 25 head onto an RB30 block. We did some secret screw oil squirter modifications and put some restrictors, oil restrictors in the block. But we got it all together and we slapped it in the car. We then hand over to George, who is doing a modification that we highly recommend you don't do at home, as I might add, the same as the crankshaft balancing that we definitely didn't actually do.
Well,
Just doing the keyway. Alright, we may have skipped a few steps on video. We've been working till like 6 AM every evening to get this thing done, so my apologies, we've sort of missed a little bit of filming. But we've put obviously the long block together, Tomei oil restrictors, standard Nissan gasket, pretty much standard head, new valve seals, etc, etc. We've put all our RB25 accessories on and it's now in the car. We started it for the first time not long ago. It seems to run mint. The only issue is obviously being RB30 with the taller deck height, pretty much nothing fit. So all the intercooler piping I had to extend. I had to make a new dump pipe. That side was okay for intercooler piping. Obviously I don't have a radiator or anything yet, and I haven't tidied any of that stuff, but that will happen. We'll put it on the dyno tomorrow and we'll only be 1 day late for Powercruise.
So it's finally time for me to fire up the EMTRON software on the laptop, load the car onto the dyno, and start making some horsepower. Obviously, fresh engine built by absolute bona fide professionals, so we didn't want to push it too hard, especially with Powercruise quite literally the next day. So took it nice and easy, but ran it in on the dyno, and it produced some pretty good results.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in us. They know we'll burn down the night. Come in,
said drive by wire with no